morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan Fortman with Relationship Matters TV. I hope everyone is enjoying their morning, afternoon, or evening. We are right here outside of Chicago, and we don't know what the weather is going to be. But before I get into the show, I really want all of us to send up prayers for the people in Texas, in Kerrville, Texas, who have witnessed devastation that none of us want to ever see. So please send up your prayers for the survivors and just for families who are really being just devastated because of the floods in Kerrville, Texas, and elsewhere in North Carolina, on the East Coast. I saw something in Boston today. So be thankful that you're not being affected by it, and just send up prayers for the people. So today, I'm going to talk about something. It's just me. I am the guest. I am the host, and I am the guest. And we are going to talk about, and I want you to really participate. So today on this show, we're asking a question that many couples are afraid to speak out loud. And what is the question? Do most married men really love their wives, or are they just happy being married? So let's explore the truth behind love, behind comfort, and what keeps a marriage truly alive. I looked up some research because I wanted to really be prepared for this. And I saw this. Now, this was research that was done in 2023, not too long ago. And the research was done with men. And this particular report showed that 88% of married men report being, now this is the word, satisfied with their relationship. Now, there was another survey, and where this survey says 60 to 70% of married men say that they were very much in love with their wives. Now, another research said, and this is according to the National Marriage Project, men often report higher satisfaction in marriage than women. Wonder about that. Now, let's talk about this. Comfort and or contentment based marriages. Now, what does that mean? There are other studies that suggest that 10 to 25% of men stay in marriage primarily for stability. Men like stability. Fear of loneliness, financial reasons. It's cheaper to keep her. The children, family obligations, and what society says. So some social expectations. Now, that is for comfort. When we talk about comfort, comfort isn't the enemy, but it's not the goal of a marriage. I'm going to give you a scenario of, that I am a relationship communications coach. And I also, and some of my clients are married, and we talk about their marriages. This is a scenario that I want you to listen to. He sat across from me. Nice shirt, kind of button down kind of shirt, wedding ring. But in his eyes, it was like that kind of tiredness that you see behind someone's eyes. And this is what he said to me. I love my wife. And he said it almost automatically. Now he's sitting in front of me because he said that his wife felt that they needed some, some marriage counseling, so to speak, or some coaching. But then he kind of paused and he looked down at his hands. He said, but I don't think I felt in love for a long time. He said, now we laugh together, we pay bills together, we raised our kids together, but I think somewhere along the way, I fell in love with being married more than I stayed in love with her. And I kind of paused. I thought, okay. And he wasn't angry. He wasn't unhappy. He just came across, just kind of like a flat kind of conversation, kind of numb. He was comfortable. And for him, that was enough. At least that's what he was telling himself. But as he was talking, I could hear it. It was like the quietness kind of in behind the eyes feeling that I got of this man wondering if there was more to marriage than habit and harmony. And as a relationship coach, I often hear men say things like she's a great woman. We don't fight. We build a good life together. But when I ask about, okay, that is really great. But what about emotional intimacy? What about the passion in the relationship? What about being vulnerable? When I say that, it's kind of like a hesitation before they answer or silence. And then that's when they say, okay, yeah, but my wife says we need marriage counseling, but I don't understand why. Now, what does this say? This kind of reveals something important. A lot of men create stability and comfort with success in the love part. Now, what does this mean? What do I mean by this? A lot of men think that, and I'm not being generalized, this, the men that I've come in contact with. If it's stable, it must be working. And why is that? So let's think about men. We always say there's this saying, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So two different creatures. If you think about social conditioning, men are often raised to value structure, to being the provider, to being the protector, and they usually value that over emotional expression. Now, when we're looking at this, when we're thinking about this, you think about women, right? What is it? Who are we? We are emotional creatures. And men are taught, you got to be strong. You got to be the rock. And if she's not complaining, then everything is good. So when the relationship feels peaceful, when it's functioning, when it's predictable, they interpret this as everything is okay. Even if the emotional connection is fading. And now what else? Many men also, when they see love as a responsibility. Now remember, I'm not saying all men, some men I can't come in contact with is through my coaching. And they show their love differently than what women do. they show their love through, being the provider, providing financially, being the protector, protecting physically, being consistent and loyal. If the bills are paid, if they have kids and the kids are doing fine, and there's no major conflict, they believe they're fulfilling their role as a loving husband. In other words, if I'm showing up, if I'm doing my part, then that means I'm showing that I love her. And it means that this is working. Now, what I want you to do is comment. What do you think so far? So, Renita, thank you. Are you loving this conversation? It gives us women some insight into our men. So even if you're single, um, married, divorced, it gives you some insight into men, and especially men who are married, men who are in marriage. Now, what else does this say? Also, now remember what I said about men. If I'm showing up, if I'm doing my part, that means I'm showing that I love her, and it means this is working. Also, some men look at comfort. They want the comfort. They don't like disruption. And men often see emotional risk as a dangerous territory because, they're taught, most of them, not to be emotional. So digging into dissatisfaction or emotional distance feels threatening to them because it threatens the stability that they value. So rather than confront the absence of passion or intimacy, they choose comfort over confrontation. Okay? And let's look at love as loyalty. Some men look at love as showing loyalty and showing consistency. And so for a lot of men, this equals love. I'm showing her that I love her. They may not express their affection or vulnerability, but in their minds, well, I come home every night. I don't cheat. I'm faithful. I'm here. Doesn't that mean I love her? But let's look at the other side. Women. How do we often measure love? It's measured usually through emotional connection. I'm not saying not consistency, but it's not just consistency. And the purpose for me pointing all of this out is for the women who are watching or listening to think about how their men may be expressing their love. Now, men, you're out there. I know you're out there because when I look at my analytics, it's 53% women, 49% men. So I know you're out there. And you can always comment. I don't have to show it on the lower third. I can just read it. So men, I'm asking you a question. And so I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I showing up emotionally for my wife? Do I feel alive in this relationship, or do I just feel comfortable? So now I'm going to look to see if any men have decided that they want to comment. Let's see. Now, Jacqueline Rogers says, I think some men reach a time in their lives when the stability of marriage And at a certain income bracket, it's a better look. Hmm, very interesting, Jacqueline. Now, I kind of agree with that because that's if you think about when you said at a certain income bracket, I'm assuming, and let me know if I'm being correct. When we talk about an income bracket, we're talking about a higher income bracket. Yes, they want that stability. So, thank you. So, I see something that came in here. Okay. And this is from a man, and I won't mention, this is a text. Society dictates roles for women and men. Men are expected to not show weakness. Women, on the other hand, are expected to be nurturers. It is hard to be strong and emotional at the same time. And this is for a man who texted me. It's hard to be, think about that. Think about that. A lot of men feel that when they show emotions, let's say when they're kids, when they're young men, they are told, you don't cry because if you cry, you are showing weakness. If you uh, show sadness, it's showing weakness. And my husband told me a story once. He said when he was a kid, he said his sister could, you know, just maybe get a fall down and hurt her knee and cry and oh, don't cry. Oh, and then, they just, oh, please, I'm so sorry. And he said, I could fall down and break my knee, break my leg and cry. And it's, boy, Bella, you better man up. Stop all that crying. You better man up. And so they're taught, most men, from the time that they were kids, they were taught not to show emotion. So when you think about that and you think about them in marriages, women might feel, well, I just don't see that emotion. And when I ask them, okay, so why do you think, do you feel that he loves you? Yes, I do. So how does he show it to you? Well, I know he's consistent. He comes home. He takes care of the bills. I feel protected. I feel all of that. He shows all of that. And you know what? I think he's comfortable. Well, when you think about it, as far as the research that I showed you earlier, that's what they feel. They feel that when I'm doing all of these things, I am showing love. And you think about exactly what I was text. What does that come from? Now, the text said it comes from society. And it does. It does. Now, men, and this is what I suggested to this particular client. I said, okay, now I want you to have this conversation with your wife. And what I want you to do is have this conversation, especially since you said that your wife feels that you need marital counseling. So, number one, this is what I said. When you have this conversation, lead with appreciation. And you can say this, I love what we've built together. But sometimes I wonder, are we still growing together the way we want to? You can also say it. I told him, you can say, you know what? Think about the connection and don't make it like this is a crisis when you talk to her. You can say, I've been thinking about how we connect. Um, Not because anything is wrong, but because I want more of us in our day to day life. And then ask your wife, do you feel that way too? More than likely, she's in that conversation and she's going to say yes. So, why does coming across like that work with this conversation? Because you frame it as a desire to deepen love rather than, saying that we have a problem. Okay. And think of, and I told him, I said, okay, so think of a memory that, makes you smile. And I gave an example. Well, remember when we used to stay up just talking about everything and nothing? I miss that. So what can we do to bring that back? And she's going to think, oh yeah, more than likely. I remember, yes, I remember. We used to listen to our favorite songs, or take our walk. Uh, we used to love just to uh, be on the beach or whatever. Now, what happens? Why does this work? Because when you think about a good memory, it invites warmth and it taps into a shared emotional history that makes your wife feel cherished and not criticized. Okay. Now, women, wives, soon to be wives, singles. Ah, okay, so here's something else. No, no, I saw something else, but I didn't. Now, wives. Let me say this. And before I do that with the wives, I got another text. Oh, okay, this is good. This is from someone else. In our society, no one blinks an eye, which is what I said a little while ago, if they see a woman cry. On the other hand, if a man cries in public, you almost know that a family member has passed away. And it's not because of a broken fingernail. That's pretty good. I'm not going to say your name, but you're exactly right. That is pretty good. So it's a difference. It's the difference. Now, women, wives, soon to be wives, let's say that the scenario that I talked about earlier with my client, let's say that is your husband. And that's the way you feel. You feel that he is in this relationship because he's just comfortable. He's not showing you that emotional feeling that you feel you don't feel that emotion. You don't see that emotion. Now, and you want to have the conversation. So when I saw the wife, what I do in my coaching, I see them separately. So this time I saw the husband first, and then I saw the wife, because there's always two sides to a story, and this way I can take both sides and come down in the middle. So now, wives, what do you do? Never, never, never start the conversation with, we need to talk. Because if you say that, we need to talk, what's going to happen? He is going to get on the defensive. I have said that. I don't just say it anymore. Because if I say, we need to talk, then I'll get okay, what did I do wrong now? And not necessarily. So they will get on the defensive. Never start a conversation with that. What you start, you gently explore the emotional connection. And first, before you have the conversation, think about yourself. What makes you feel loved? What does a fulfilling relationship look like to you? Before you have that conversation. So you can have that in your head. So it's not well, what do you want? I don't know. A whole bunch of stuff. Have all of that in your mind first. Okay. Now, even though this is about why men stay in marriages, you can really relate this to if you're having a romantic relationship, you're not necessarily married. So, bottom line for women, I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to start the conversation without using those dreaded words, we need to talk. Because, as I said, that's automatically putting him on the defensive. So, start with curiosity, not criticism. Make sure that you are in a nice place. You can, that is calm. You don't have an agenda. And you just want to have this conversation. This is a good way to start. Can I share something that's been on my heart? Not because anything's wrong, but because I care about us so much. You say that instead of, you never talk to me anymore. Nah, you don't want to say that. You can say, I've been thinking a lot about how we connect emotionally. And I'm curious, what does love feel like for you these days? Now, more than likely, you're going to get the responses that I talked about a little earlier. But you're framing it as being curious. And so when you're framing it like that, being curious, it's safe. You're inviting your mate into a dialogue. You're not accusing him of failing, okay, of not doing something. And that way he doesn't feel judged, because if he's feeling judged, then he's going to shut down. So curiosity opens the door without demanding for him to be immediately vulnerable, because men do not like to feel vulnerable, or if they do feel it, to show it. And then use the we language. Don't say something like, well, like I feel you just checked out emotionally. You just don't give me what I need. No. Something better to say. I love us, and I want to feel closer again. I wonder what small things we could do together to bring that spark. So why does that work? Because when you're using we instead of I or you, it removes the blame. And now it's reinforcing teamwork. And it's an assurance to him that, that you're on the same side, that you're in this together. You're not building a case against him. Now, why does all of that work? First of all, when I said, find a nice place, a time when everything is cool and calm, not when you're angry, either one of you, not when you're angry, not when you're upset, disappointed, but when it's a nice, neutral atmosphere, because timing is essential. And then think about the tone of your voice. Not, well, I just wanted to talk about, how we are together. No, you have a nice tone to your voice, because that sets the atmosphere. And be brief. You know how we are, women. When we start speaking or explaining things, sometimes we don't know when to stop. So be brief. Just say what you have to say in the language that I have given you examples of. Now, if you have a different example or something that you do, put it in the chat. Let me know. Okay. When you do this, your mate, the men, they're more likely to open up when they don't feel like they're being ambushed or even overwhelmed. And when I put in overwhelmed, it's because you know how we are. We love to talk, we love to explain. It was something that I saw one day that a comedian said about how men can say what they have to say in 3 words, where it's going to take us maybe like 100. Okay, so let me look to see if anyone has anything else that they want to put in the chat. Okay, now I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Now, I want to know what you think about that. Why, if you are married, how do you feel about what I've said? Why men stay in marriages? And if you agree, let me know. If you don't agree, let me know. But what I've done is just come from my clients and what I've seen. It's when they've come to me because they feel as though they need some counseling or some coaching. And it's usually the woman who comes and says, I really feel as though we need some help in our marriage because my husband is not showing me that he loves me in the way that I want him to show me. Now, when I talk about the women, when I talk with them, usually when they say and they explain to me how they show why they stay in marriage, I'm going to do that on the next go round about why women stay in marriage. Some of it has to do with the same thing that men say. In other words, the stability, don't want to be alone because of the children, because of the finances, uh, society. Some of them will say, well, my parents were married for 50 years, and it's no matter what, you stay in that marriage. Sometimes it's the religious factor. Well, my church or my religion doesn't believe in divorce or leaving, all of those. But the difference is they show, they stay in there for the sometimes for the same reasons, but they show how they love, oh, in a different way. We just had some lightning, and hopefully this doesn't go out because sometimes, you get that surge. So if all of a sudden you don't see me anymore, it's because of the surge. Now, are there any comments? Do you agree with me? Now, for those who came in a little later, I'm just going to just repeat the scenario. And if you are a man, do you see yourself in that scenario? If you are the wife, do you see your husband in that scenario? The purpose of this really is for the women to understand their man. If you're married, why some men stay in their marriage does not mean that they don't love their wife. It just means that they show it differently. So now, Sandy Barney Ennis says, oh, poor, poor women have a lot on their shoulders. I believe that's why we are so worthy. Ah, you know, okay, I like that. And Jacqueline Rogers wants to know, how do the men initially react to counseling? Well, usually they're very reluctant. And the only reason they're there really is because they want to save their marriage. It takes some time, it takes more time for me to get to the root of what's happening in their marriage from a man than it does from the woman. The woman will tell me, this is happening, that's happening. This is how I feel. This is what I see. This is what I think. And the men, I want to save what we have, or I feel that we're drifting apart. The men are usually, well, I don't know why I'm here. Because as I said earlier, I don't know why I'm here. I pay the bills. I'm there all the time. I this, I that, I the other. The emotional part is missing. So it's reluctant. They're reluctant, but usually when I have them to question themselves, and then after I speak to the wife, then when I can get them together, usually the men will like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was the way she felt about what I was doing. I thought I was doing everything that she wanted. But in the end, what I ask the man usually is, did you ask her? And I get that. No. And then from the women, I'll get sometimes, did you tell him? Well, I just thought he needed to, he should know. No, it's all about communication. Relationships are about communication. And here Sandy Barney Ennis says, why do we have to always be the understanding one? Sandy, I mean, yeah, I guess that's who we are. That's who we are raised to be. What do you think, Jacqueline or Renita? What do you think about that? Okay, something else came in. This is another text. The truth of the matter is that a man and woman look at the same things, but come away with different viewpoints. Yes, yes. When we say men are from Mars, women are from Venus, the important issue is communicating and understanding each other. Yes, you can view things differently. We're different. But when we communicate our differences, we communicate with each other. And as I said before, not in a blaming way, and women not in that we need to talk way, but having that conversation. And the goal of the conversation is to have a better relationship. The goal of the conversation is not to blame. The goal of the conversation is to understand. So when you see women, when you see your husband and he's diligently paying the bills, or he's diligently being consistent, or he's diligently being your protector, this is the way he's showing love. You don't show love that way. How do we show love? From our emotions. So, Sandy, as far as Why do we always have to be the understanding one? We're nurturers. And Jacqueline Rogers says, in general, we women are more intuitive. We can sense when there's a shift in a relationship, positive or negative. That's very, very true. Now, if there's a man who would love to come on, what do you think about that? Do you feel that women are more intuitive? Can you sense when there's a shift in the relationship, positive or negative? Now, you know what I think? Yes, we are more intuitive, but I believe that men can sense that shift. But remember what I said earlier. They want stability. Even if they feel, oh, wait a minute, there's a shift. There's something negative happening here. Our relationship is not the same. Because they really, I think, from what I've seen, have that fear. They would prefer to just go along. What is that? Go along to get along? Now, that's what I have seen. I'm not going to say that I am an expert in what men think and feel. I can only go by the clients that I have and the research that I have looked up, or what other women and men tell me. Now, what I want to say too about this is that there is no one size fits all answer. Some men love deeply and show it sometimes in an emotional kind of way, and others are quietly content. Others are comfortable and want to stay comfortable in their way. But what really, really matters here is whether both people feel valued, they feel seen, and that their relationship is emotionally alive. So now, if you're in a relationship, whether you're married or a romantic relationship, I want you to ask yourself, are you thriving or just you're surviving? Are you just surviving in a comfort? Ask yourself that. Now, are there any other comments? I would love to hear any other comments. And what do you think about all of this? What do you think? Does it, I see women who are responding. Do you see this in your relationship? Do you see this in your marriage? Does this make you more understanding of your mate? All you got to do is say yes or no. That's all you got to do. So I would appreciate it. Jacqueline, Sandy, the ones that I see, Renita, I would appreciate it if you would just say yes or no. Or if you are, for the ones who are sending me texts, give me a text. Do you agree? Is there a comment? The whole premise of this, the whole reason for this is to understand why men stay in marriage. And as I said, we're going to do something differently as far as women. Why do women stay in marriages. And I thought I would do this because to talk about the divorce rate and how high it is. And when you look at it, it's because there's usually no real communication and there's usually no real understanding. Now, I am Dr. Jan Fortman, and I am a relationship communication coach. If you feel as though you would like to avail yourself of my services, all you have to do is, let me find it for you, is just email me. You can email me at jan4now125@gmail.com. Now, for those who are just listening, it's JAN, the number 4, NOW125@gmail.com. Now, I do see a comment here, and this is from Jacqueline. A real man is responsible in all areas, and our problem now, we have two generations of childish men. All right, Jacqueline, tell us how you really feel. All righty. And if you would like to be on the show, or you know someone who would be a good guest, someone who you feel would, be an interesting guest, then I would like you to email me at relationshipmatterstv@gmail.com. Now, I have 2 phones here, and this other one is buzzing. So let me see if there is a comment. Is there a text on this phone? Because I often get the text on 2 different phones. Okay. Gwendolyn Dunbar says, I think men stay if it's beneficial to them. All right, Gwen. And here's another text. It says, an example of the difference between men and women. Oh, an example of the difference between men and women. Then picture both being a boiler. Men are usually simple beings and only require, 3 knobs to operate. Women, on the other hand, require 10 or more knobs to operate. They are more complicated. You know that came from a man, right? All righty. So it's about time for me to sign off. But if you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you know someone who you feel would be a good guest, just email me at relationshipmatterstv@gmail.com. And thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation myself. And guess what? When I'm doing research, and I learn things that help my relationship. So I'm giving this to you, but I'm also giving this to me. So I want all of you, if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, if you're thinking about getting married, remember what I said. Or read the book. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But if you're in a relationship and you're wondering whether or not your husband loves you, even your boyfriend loves you, why he's still here, but he's not giving you what you need emotionally, what you can do is just go over, watch this program again. You can see it again on Roku. You can see it again on YouTube, on Amazon, on Spotify, a lot of the different channels. And if you just look, just say, is this my husband? Is this my mate? Renita Dixon says, I don't get it. People will stay and be unhappy. So why not work to be happy? Exactly, Renita. This is exactly what I'm saying. Understand who your partner is. Have that conversation. If you are unhappy, remember, no one can make you unhappy. You make yourself unhappy. You make yourself happy. Now, if you are in a relationship and you're unhappy, have a conversation. Like I said, one size does not fit all. You might decide, well, you know what? We really can't come to an agreement, to an understanding. And you might decide, this relationship is going to be over. That happens. As I said, one size doesn't fit all. So I want to thank all of you for watching, for listening. And I want you to remember this. There are all kinds of relationships. There are all kinds of relationship matters. Life is about relationship. So I'll see you again next week. Now, next week, I'm having a guest on who is here in Chicago. Her name is Rhonda. And Rhonda is, what can I say? You know what? She's a very interesting person. I want you to tune in, especially if you live in the Chicagoland area. She has some services that are different that I have availed myself of. And it's all about women as sisters, if you're over 60, getting together and just opening up to a lot of things, I'll say, that you might not have thought of. I would just say one thing. I haven't done it yet, but have you ever tried to pole dance? I think I might try that. All right. I'll see you again next week on Relationship Matters TV. Have a beautiful, blessed morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.